All right, so here we are with another McFarlane DC Superpowers unboxing, and here I have one of the greatest DC superheroes of all time. Uh, a name that deserves to be held in the same esteem as Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, The Flash, Aquaman, The Martian Manhunter. Yes, I'm talking about none other than, oh, I thought you were Green Lantern. This is Booster Gold. So the real ones get that joke. So yeah, this is actually probably the figure from this wave I was most looking forward to, especially since I've had the Blue Beetle action figure since that came out. And if you got the Blue Beetle, you gotta have Booster Gold. These two go together like peanut butter and jelly. You gotta have one to have the other one. And it's funny because this was a guy who was created in the 1960s, Charlton Comics, not even DC Comics yet. This guy wasn't created till the 80s. Had his own solo series. Dan Jurgens created this guy, who later on went on to become uh, the guy behind the death of Superman, created Doomsday also. So this was one of the first superheroes that he created. Now, my friend Alex Wright, shout out to him if he's watching. When we were talking about the Blue Beetle figure, he had said that he wished that the goggles were clear on this guy, and I said, I wish they were clear on Booster Gold as well. I think that that would have been a better option, and I get why they would think the opaque goggles fit a little bit better in with the style of superpowers. But if I'm being real about it, I think they could have given him clear goggles and given him sort of the light pipe thing in the head like Darkseid had. In fact, I ran across this going through some of my storage. This is the Total Justice Booster Gold figure that they did in the Blue Beetle that they did in the 1990s, and they did something interesting with him where they molded his whole head in this clear yellow plastic and just painted everything else. So it did give it some, like the goggles, like a translucent quality to them. It still doesn't have the eyes painted in underneath like Alex was talking about, but I think it would have looked really cool if they had have done it that way. But unfortunately not. He's just got opaque goggles. Really nice piece of artwork here, even though like he is standing kind of stiffly. But it is a very 80s looking Booster Gold image. It does look a lot like how he was drawn in the comics of that time. Almost looks like Dick Giordano doing the inking there. So it might be an older picture because he passed away some years ago. I do wish they'd used the '80s Booster Gold logo on here instead of this more modern one. Now, this isn't a bad logo by any stretch of the imagination. It's nicely done. I like the way that the two O's in the word booster are actually kind of an infinity, which plays into the time travel aspects of the character. So I kind of like that, almost like a time loop. So that's pretty cool. And also, I mentioned this in the multiverse, the Booster Gold Blue Beetle 2 pack that I opened up for that. I prefer for Booster Gold to be wearing gold rather than yellow because the guy's name is Booster Gold, not Booster Yellow. So, but you can see they didn't really draw him too shiny in the artwork there. So if that was their reference they were using, well, that probably explains that. So again, some people might say that the yellow is more fitting of the aesthetic of superpowers, but no, they used metallic colors here and there when it was considered appropriate. So like the chrome on Cyborg or Desaad, for example. Ooh, a chrome Booster Gold would be really cool. So if they could do that, if they could pull that off in some way. So let's go ahead and read the bio on the back. I'm sure it's going to be very detailed and tell us a lot about the character, just like the other bios in this line. A scoundrel from the future intent on making a name for himself in the past, Booster Gold has nevertheless exhibited his fair share of heroism. Yeah, that's probably actually better than most of the other bios I've read in this wave, but still, it doesn't really tell us enough about the character. Like, what's What's his real name, for example? That would be something that would be nice to have on there. How did he get his powers or his suit or anything like that? What are his powers? What is his suit? Well, I'll tell you, there's a lot of powers built into this suit. It'd be nice if they were listed. He's got a Legion of Superheroes flight ring. He can shoot blasts out of his hands. And originally, the concept behind this suit was it was supposed to be Lex Luthor's suit, the Legion of Doom super villain suit, and he just like recolored it to be this uniform because he stole it from the space museum that he worked at. So they had a Luthor's suit there as like an antique in their exhibit. So he just recolored it to be his Booster Gold suit. But by the time they actually got around to explaining his origin, Crisis on Infinite Earths had happened, and in the new history, Luthor had never worn that suit because it was the businessman Lex Luthor. So unless they wanted to have him wearing something, with double-breasted or a vest or something like that, nice silk tie, he wasn't going to be wearing Lex Luthor's suit anymore. So they just changed it to some generic space criminal that they had in there. But the most important thing, I think, as far as Booster Gold goes, and they did actually sculpt it on here, we'll try to get a closer look at that in a second, is he does have the Legion of Superheroes flight ring. So that's how Booster Gold can fly. So let's go ahead and open him up. Yeah, I remember Booster Gold got some good use in the Death of Superman storyline since he was a member of the Justice League at that time. And his suit got completely trashed. And afterwards, they put him in like this really clunky armor for a while. And Dan Jurgens didn't like that. So the first chance he got, he put Booster back into a sleek type suit like this one. And it was not the same exact design. Like it had like the star was more over the heart, didn't have the high collar anymore. But I did think that it was a really cool design, and I really liked that suit for Booster Gold. But he didn't wear it for very long because they had him back in something more resembling the classic version before long. I think the costume he wears currently looks pretty much like this, but it does not have the high collar anymore. They got rid of that. I guess they felt like that was a little too 70s. Which is funny because he's a character created in the 80s. But like I said, that was originally Lex Luthor's suit, and Lex Luthor wore that suit in the 70s. So it's still like, a 70s look. Where did I put something I wanted to try is somebody had said that the Cape Master Dr. Fate cape looks really good on this guy. And of course, Booster did wear a cape in some of the 80s comics. But I don't have a Cape Master Dr. Fate cape. I have a Cape Master Robin cape. So let's go ahead and put that on him and see what it looks like. Because, the Dr. Fate cape should probably be about the same as this, only longer. So there's what he looks like with a cape, for anybody who's wondering. Hopefully I didn't bend the wire in here too out of shape. And put that back on Ming. I didn't really like the way the cape clip worked on the that came with the Power Stars Ming. So it was a little too small. So I put this one onto him, and I think that this one looks really good because I already had this Robin cape. I ordered some from the Cape Master to get a look at how he did things and see what they were like. I'm going to try to get that back into shape. I'd managed to get it around his neck in such a way where like it didn't have that fleshiness showing, if you remember me talking about that. So I really liked how that worked out. Pop that back on there. And there we go. So doesn't that look nice? So I'll try to get some pictures of that and put them on the community setting later so we can see that. So I think he's using a piece of wire, maybe like a paper clip. I use paper clips when I make my capes. And I did make my own Dr. Fate cape, by the way. We'll have a closer look at him later. Because oh yeah, I've got the rest of the Justice League International figures, at least the ones I have so far. So we can get a look at them. First, let's get a look at him next to Blue Beetle. and we can see that he is much taller and much more muscular than Blue Beetle. So there's that. Now, I think I mentioned in the review that like sometimes they drew Beetle with a bit of a paunch, which I think was a joke on Night Owl. But well, he's got enough abs in this version. But he's still like a smaller guy than Booster Gold. Booster was a football player, so I guess he should probably be a big guy. Let's have a look at that articulation. So the head rotates from side to side. It doesn't really go all the way around because of the high collar, but that's okay. The arms rotate all the way around at the shoulder. No elbow articulation, no wrist articulation. This is a 1980s style action figure, so his articulation is somewhat limited. Remember, back in the 80s, most action figures had like 5 points of articulation, and that's it. You know, like Superpowers did one better by adding knee articulation, but we'll get to that in a second. So Booster can kick forward about that far and kick back about that far, so he can do the splits no problem. And then he has the aforementioned knee articulation, pretty good range of motion at the knees. So looking at the sculpt of the figure, there are, I would say, a lot of new parts on this guy, maybe almost entirely new parts. Obviously, the head is new, the torso is new. That line where the yellow meets the blue, that is sculpted in. That's not just paint. So there actually is like a little bit of a ridge here where the yellow pattern is. The star is just painted on. And likewise, if we look at the shoulders, the yellow shape is painted over the shoulders as well. He's got the little blaster things on the wrists, like I was talking about. And if I can get it to focus well enough, we can see that they did indeed sculpt the Legion of Superheroes ring in there, and it does look like it has a little bit of an L to it, but it's so small I can't quite make it out. But I think that they have it in there. Let's compare him with Nightwing, since Nightwing, same body as Green Lantern, and I believe that this is probably what an average superhero looks like in this line. So he is about the same height and build as Nightwing / Green Lantern. I believe that I suspect that they did use the same buck for the most part to create this figure. They just kind of resculpted it a little bit. But I think all these parts are original. I don't think that there's anything reused from Nightwing. I think they just or Green Lantern or whatever you want to call them. I think they just kind of like used the same general buck and kind of retooled it a little bit. The torso looks entirely different. Like I said, they have some extra added detail to it. They probably had to make this a new torso anyway because of the collar. So they probably figured we'll go all out and put the details of where the yellow meets the blue in there. Also down at the bottom where the blue meets the pants. That's sculpted in, even on the back where it comes to a point right where the base of the spine is. But yeah, like with Blue Beetle, all these costume details are sculpted in there, so that is quite nice. But yeah, looking at the musculature of it, like it seems like it's not the same exact sculpt, but I think they kind of use this one as a basis. But the thigh muscles are different. I'm getting really into the weeds as far as this goes, but the proportions are very much similar. So he's a figure that has about the same build as Nightwing. So since I was talking about how this was the Legion of Doom Lex Luthor costume originally, let's have a look at him next to Lex Luthor, and we can see that he is a little bit taller if we compare the tops of their heads than the Superpowers version of Lex Luthor. So if you were thinking about maybe using this for a custom to do the Legion of Superheroes version of Luthor, you might want to make him a little bit shorter, maybe shorten his legs a little bit. If you can switch out the legs with something else, that might be good. But he does have the high collar, so you could probably use it as a basis for Lex if you wanted to. But it does also show you how he looks next to a vintage Superpowers figure. And since I happen to have Green Lantern, you can see how silly it is. Somebody would get them confused. I am not Green Lantern. If I were Green Lantern, my costume would be green. And might as well have a look at him next to Green Arrow as well, since I have Green Arrow here. Green Arrow, I think, is one of the shorter of the original Kenner Superpowers figures. He's even a little bit shorter than Blue Beetle. And, I was talking about Blue Beetle is kind of on the short side. So, and what the hell? While I've got Black Manta here, let's go ahead and, Black Manta is about the same height as Blue Beetle. And not quite as tall as Booster Gold. So, very impressive looking figure, I think. We've already seen him next to Blue Beetle, so let's see him next to some of the other JLI characters. First of all, we have Batman, and this is the blue and gray Batman, which would be appropriate for that time period, the late 80s. A little bit taller than Batman, which Batman being like 6'2", that means Booster's a pretty tall dude. Next we have Guy Gardner. So there he is with Guy Gardner. Oh, while I'm at it, because I know some of you will want to see this. Pow! There we go. One punch. Wahaha! Okay, so there's got that out of the way for you. And speaking of Dr. Fate from earlier, this is my original vintage Superpowers Dr. Fate. He did not come with a cape, so I had to make the cape myself. Just some spandex and a paperclip. That's how I made that. You can find a pattern for that on Toy Polloi, that website. So there he is next to Dr. Fate, and they're both a couple of guys wearing blue and yellow, and they both look better in gold. I'm just saying, maybe it was appropriate to put him in yellow. They should have given Dr. Fate a gold helmet. I think that would look way better. I'm just saying. And then finally, last and certainly not least, John Jones, the Martian Manhunter. And again, another figure I had to make him a cape, which I made his cape. I made his collar a little bit too big, but he still looks cool. As there he is with the Martian Manhunter. So I guess I can get a picture of all these guys together at some point, and I'll put that in the community post as well. Now, if only I had some place for them to hang out and make their plans and have their meetings and something like that. Oh, I do. Oh, look at that. I got the bug. And we'll be opening that up probably sometime next week. But you can see that I got that at Walmart on clearance. I had wanted to buy this for a while, and luckily I found one that was on clearance. That saved me a little bit of money. But that's going to have to wait till next week. Well, I might can do it Saturday. We'll see. If I don't do it Saturday, it'll be next week. But the next unboxing we're going to do is going to be this bad boy here, Dark Side. And I've been really excited to open up this Dark Side figure, but I had to get these Superpowers figures out of the way because I'd already been sitting on them for long enough. Yeah, I got the Superpowers figures around the same time that I got the Batman Forever figures, and I felt like those had a little more priority as far as getting those open since I am such a big Batman fan. But yeah, the Superpowers definitely really cool. I was glad to get those opened up. But this guy, man, I've been looking forward to opening this guy for a while, so I'm excited about that. That's coming tomorrow. So if you want to make sure that you don't miss that, make sure that you like and subscribe. All the fun YouTube stuff down below. Leave a comment. Let me know what you think about Booster Gold, both the figure and the character in general. I do think he's a really fun character. I really enjoyed Dan Jurgens' run on Booster Gold in the 1980s. It was a fairly short-lived series, only lasted like 25 issues, but I guess that's a pretty decent run for a brand new character that was introduced in the late 1980s. And then, of course, when that series ended, they were able to segue him into the Justice League series, and they used him quite well in that. I think he probably became more popular in Justice League International than he was even in his own series, evidenced by the fact that his own series only lasted like 25 issues. But, it made an impression, I think, on a lot of comic book readers who eventually became pros. Jeff Johns was a big fan, so of course he brought him back in the early aughts, I think. I think that was when that series came out. That was some good stuff. I liked that. That was probably some of the best Jeff Johns stuff I read besides JSA, which I love. JSA, the Justice Society. That's one of my favorite superhero comics ever. That was probably the best thing Jeff Johns ever did. So anyway, that's pretty much it for this episode. Hope you enjoyed it. We will talk to you next time. Bye.